Welcome to Super Tuesday, presented by Progressive. We are in cowboy country, Laramie, Wyoming, and the University of Wyoming, ready to take on the Utah State Aggies in a Mountain West showdown. Welcome to the Arena Auditorium, everybody, alongside Richie Schuler. I'm Eric Rothman, and Richie, we are 7,220 feet above sea level, the highest point in all of college basketball. And you could say that the Aggies are at their highest point of their whole season, if you like what I did there.
I see what you did there. Yeah, it's well documented that they lost 3 straight in Mountain West Conference play, but they have been trending up, winning 3 of the last 4 games, and doing so in pretty good fashion. 90% of the time in those 4 games they have led. They've held opponents defensively to 38% from the field, and it's been Sam Merrill, Nimi Keita, and Justin Bean who have all averaged double figures in those last 4 games, or last 3 games rather, shooting nearly 60% from the field, and they've been the catalyst. Those 3 players, the 3-headed monsters. Sam Merrill has been outstanding all season, shooting 40% from behind the arc, but scoring in a variety of ways. And then you have Nimi Keita down inside, the best defender in the league, who's shooting 67% from the field on the other end as well. And then Justin Bean, maybe the best rebounder in the conference, and he's just all energy all the time.
The Aggies are 16-6 overall, whopping 11-1 at home. However, they've struggled a little bit on the road, just 1-4 in true road games. Wyoming is 5-16 overall. They have yet to win a conference game. They've been in a lot of close games. They've lost a lot of nail biters, and they're going to have to keep their eye on the big man, Nimi Keita. You were just talking about him, Richie, as being one of the best interior defenders in the Mountain West Conference, but he also has some really good low post, high post passing ability. He's a tough matchup for a lot of teams in the Mountain West, and a Utah State team who is the tallest in the nation is a tough matchup for Wyoming.
Very tough matchup, and for Utah State, they've got to push it when they can or execute here in the half court when they have to. Wyoming likes to slow the game now. Now, the Wyoming had like 6 players out last year, many to injury, and they slowed it way down because they were playing with walk-ons and other players that had stepped up to the team very late in the season. But this year, they're healthy. Wyoming is just very young.
Getting a lot of production from Hunter Maldonado, the redshirt sophomore who leads the team in points, rebounds, and assists. Talk about slowing it down. Wyoming only averages 60 points per game, 3 on the shot clock for A.J. Banks. And a foul underneath. And we take a look at Utah State head coach Craig Smith in his 2nd season with the program at 28 wins. Last year in his first year, they won the Mountain West Conference and the tournament title, going to the NCAA tournament as an 8 seed. They were picked to finish 1st in the preseason this year. We talked about the midseason struggles, losing 3 of 4 to teams like UNLV, San Diego State, and Air Force, and then a week later losing to Boise State. But since then, it's been really strong. 2 wins in a row at home, and now looking for a win on the road against a tough team in Wyoming, at least when it comes to winning in this building. Utah State won last year on the road in Laramie. That was the first time they won here since 1962. Wow. And they haven't won in back-to-back seasons since 1959 and 1960, as the air ball by Keita gets cleaned up by Brock Miller. So a little bit of a hump to get over for the Aggies in their history with Wyoming.
Absolutely. And you know, what we just saw just a moment ago is Utah State getting an offensive rebound. That's one of the keys to the game for Wyoming. They have to limit second chances, not allow Utah State to get those extra buckets, and also take care of the basketball. Wyoming has had a problem this year with throwing away some pick sixes. Turnovers for layups on the other end.
There's a turnover right there on Kenny Foster, the freshman from Aurora, Colorado. Alan Edwards in his 4th year as head coach with Wyoming. Just 8-24 last year. In his first season in 2017, they won the CBI. Former assistant for Western Kentucky and Morehead State. He was actually a player, 2-time national champ for Rick Pitino at Kentucky. Turnover for Wyoming as they run the break. Good recovery on defense for Utah State. Justin Bean gets in the way. That's back-to-back turnovers on the freshman Kenny Foster, and he's going to have his hands full being guarded by Justin Bean all night.
Well, Justin Bean is terrific on both ends of the floor. If you're looking for somebody that's just brute athleticism and a player that's just going to give you 100% effort on both ends of the floor, Justin Bean's that guy. Came from being a walk-on to being one of the only 2 players in the conference averaging a double-double.
He just outworks people. Work ethic is something that not only drives him, but rises the rest of his teammates, and he sets a tone. And a guy who, during the stretch for Craig Smith and his head coach, when they lost 3 of 4, Bean was dealing with a high ankle sprain. So was his teammate Sam Merrill. Keita wasn't fully 100% coming back from his injuries. And now with all three of those guys healthy, this is a completely different Utah State team. Wyoming starting the game 1 of 3 from the floor. Hunter Maldonado, the only field goal for them. 2 of 4 for the Aggies, with Miller and Cada both getting a bucket. Justin Bean hits the deck. He stepped out of bounds. And a turnover, a sloppy start for both of these teams.
Yeah, you talk about Justin Bean and his injuries this year. You know, in high school, just after his junior year, where he averaged a double-double, like 22 and 11 his junior year of high school, tore his ACL, didn't have quite as strong a senior year. But you've seen what he's done here at Utah State. Here's a player who changed his number to 34 in the offseason from last year to this year because he wanted to honor his father, who also wore that number at Idaho State.
Maldonado, a medical red shirt last year, only played 8 games. He's come back strong, averaging 17 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists this year for Wyoming. In the corner, Abel Porter missing a 3. Maldonado wants to push the pace. I tell you, that Odell Beckham style hair has really become in vogue as of late, huh? You thinking about growing your hair out like that?
Actually, I'm working on it.
Oh,
I'm gonna get some frosted tips.
Sam Merrill, the reigning Mountain West Player of the Year. And really, him and Abel Porter, you talk about upperclassmen in the backcourt, guys with a lot of experience. That comes in handy come postseason play in conference and if this team makes the postseason.
When I first started coaching, I was always looking for big men, and you always are doing that. And that's a great defensive play by Hunter Maldonado. He's not just a good offensive player. As you see, he leads the team in 3 categories: points, assists, rebounds, and how about that block? But I came to find out when I became a head coach that it's important to have great guard play. Doesn't matter how great your post players are if you can't get them the basketball. Guard play has to be your catalyst, has to be what fuels your team.
And to be fair, both of these teams are pretty heavy at the guard position. The difference being with Wyoming, they're just very, very young. Here's one of their young players, their freshman, Kenny Foster. They've had some injuries to the front court, had to rely on a pretty small lineup, but a group that is mostly sophomore and freshmen, 10 of those underclassmen are getting a lot of experience.
Look at Wyoming's lineup. They play 4 perimeter guys, 1 post because of 2 injuries, like you said, to the front line. 2 seniors, no juniors on this team, and a load of freshmen and sophomores. And that's uncharacteristic of Nimi Cada. He's usually outstanding at passing that ball out of the post.
4th turnover on Utah State. Wyoming offense struggling. They're just 1 of 6. Neither of these teams have scored in about 3.5 minutes. We need an injection of offense here, Richie. Maldonado takes it to the hoop. Good rim protection by Justin Bean. You know, Justin Bean shows you don't have to be the biggest. You don't have to be the most athletic. You have to play sound fundamental basketball, be in the right position, and just outwork people.
I mean, he reminds you of Dennis Rodman. You know what I'm saying? Like, Dennis Rodman was a guy that could get any rebound. You'll see Justin Bean go from one side of the floor. Shot goes up. It lands in the other corner, and he ends up with it.
Be surprised if I see Justin Bean in a wedding dress anytime soon.
See what you did there.
We need some offense here in Wyoming. Got some defense from Hunter Maldonado, who's got the only field goal for the Cowboys, as he puts the stuffing on Brock Miller. Utah State up by 1. Both of these teams, Utah State and Wyoming, without a point for over 4 minutes. It's the Aggies with a 1-point lead under 14 minutes and 10 seconds here in the first half. And we talked about the 3-headed monster for the Aggies and their ability to get multiple looks from multiple different positions. Not necessarily the case for Wyoming. They've relied heavily on one guy, and that's Hunter Maldonado.
He's been terrific. He's just a sophomore. He's 5th in the Mountain West in points per game. He's 6th in the Mountain West in assists per game. This is a guy that has over 2 years of eligibility left. Had a rough last game, 7 points only and 7 turnovers in 37 minutes of play when they played down at San Diego State. They're top 5 in the country, but you know, he is a talented player.
Good inbounds play out of the break for the Aggies. Justin Bean gets the bucket. Sean Bairstow the assist. He just checked into the game during the timeout, as well as Diogo Brito and Alfonso Anderson for Utah State. TJ Taylor out there now for Wyoming, as well as Quan Marble III, both entering for the first time. Foster struggling from the floor, as is the entire Cowboys team. They've taken 8 field goals, made 1. 6 of those have been from behind the arc as Diogo Brito, good baseline drive.
Like to see that from Utah State. Like I said earlier, they got to push when they can because Wyoming wants to slow it down. 1 pass across half court, a couple of dribbles, and a layup.
Jake Hendricks hasn't said his name yet, averaging 10 points per game this season, coming off the loss at San Diego State where he had 20 points and 5 3-pointers made in that game. Low on the shot clock now as Quan Marble goes up against Anderson and wins the duel.
What a tough freshman. He can shoot outside, but you see, he can get to the basket. He's averaging 10.5 points per game over the last 6. He's a freshman.
Aggies want to test the interior, now working to the outside. Brito, kick out, wide open Sam Merrill for 3.
For Wyoming to have a chance of getting this upset win tonight, they have to limit the 3-point shooting. When Wyoming played at Nevada, just a week or 2 ago, they held Nevada, who is one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the country at 39%, held them to 24%. If they can do something similar to that, like that here versus Utah State, they got a real chance of winning this game.
Hendricks looking to match it on the other end. Utah State, you talked about their 3-point shooting, just 27% as a team in Mountain West play. However, they're coming off the game against Colorado State where they went 10 for 20 from behind the arc.
Like I said, they're trending up. This team is finally coming together. They have consistency now. They have all their players available, and they are looking really strong.
Alfonso Anderson missing the 3, and Anderson and Brito off the bench, 2 guys that Craig Smith pointed out and saying, when we were playing well last year, especially with Brito, those were guys that gave us quality minutes, and they're starting to do so here down the stretch in Mountain West play.
Well, Brito is shooting the ball slightly better than he was early in the season. And, you know, Brito is also a guy who's got a really strong upper body. He's a strong defender. And I do think Brito could be an X factor for this squad. Going to shoot that. Got
2
it.
on the shot clock as Marble got rid of it. Brito, one of 2 Portuguese players on this team, along with Nini Keita.
And how about Utah State has 2/3 of all players from Portugal in the entire college basketball across the United States?
Well, they got it rolling here during the last stretch. Up 11-5 on the road against Wyoming. Utah State Aggies shooting 50% from the floor. They're up 11-5 on the road here against Wyoming. 11:21 to go in half number 1. And folks, 3 top 20 teams highlight our full day of Saturday college hoops right here on ESPN and the ESPN app. Number 13 Kentucky takes on number 17 Auburn. That's at 6 p.m. Eastern. And then number 9 Duke squares off against Syracuse at the Carrier Dome at 8 Eastern. Saturday college hoops on ESPN and the ESPN app. Craig Smith in his 2nd season with Utah State. They've won 2 in a row after the heartbreak overtime loss on the road against Boise State, where they blew an 18-point lead in the final 4 minutes. One thing that they're doing really well here so far in this game, Richie, is dominating the boards, up 10-4.
Not only that, they're scoring in the paint. 8 of their 11 points are in the paint, and that's good. When you're playing an undersized team like Wyoming, and you're massive, take advantage of the interior presence. And look at Nini Keita, and that's surprising. It's 2 turnovers now, passing out of the post. That's something I always thought he was really good at. Great vision, high IQ, just not his first 10 minutes of play here.
Take a look at points in the paint. And the team with the most has won 11 of the last 13.
It's crazy. And you talked about how long it's been, or how long it had been since Utah State won here in Laramie. Something like 50 years.
1962
Wow.
until last year.
Well, Wyoming is 31-7 overall in Laramie against Utah State.
Another turnover on Utah State. That's number 6. Problem is Wyoming has not been able to get any transition offense until now. Quan Marble III gets a triple, the 2nd for his team in this game. They're 2 of 9 from long distance.
I love seeing him get better. Had some foot issues earlier in the summer. Lots of injuries in high school, but hey, I'm telling you, he's starting to play well, averaging double figures the last 6-7 games, 12 points at San Diego State, just a freshman now.
3 turnovers in a row on the Aggies. This time it's Abel Porter.
Yeah, Coach Smith on the sideline for Utah State looks like he's about to blow a gasket. And that's one thing that they have to focus on. Porter here now, he got stuck in the air, and therefore he had nowhere to pass the ball to. But it's Utah State, they've just got to focus on themselves. They're taking steps forward. They're getting some more consistency. But I think Utah State is just a team that they have the pieces. You know, yeah, you got to do scouting reports, and yeah, you got to go through practice and whatnot, but you have to really just focus on yourselves more than the other team. Nothing's more evident than that right now with 3 straight turnovers.
Maldonado in the block, a guy who can play multiple positions, kicks it out to Marble, who just had the 3. He had nowhere to go, and he throws it away.
It was a little bit of a high pass, but at the same time, you could say T.J. Taylor should probably have his hands up with his fingertips showing, ready to receive the ball. Still not a great pass.
So, Richie, we look at Nimi Keita so far. 1 of 2 shooting, 2 points, but he has 4 turnovers, and really, the Utah State guards have struggled to find him and get him touches.
Nevertheless, Utah State is a much better team with Keita on the floor. When he's in foul trouble, when he fouls out, when he's not on the floor, is when usually opposing teams make their runs.
Brock Miller back into the game. And an offensive foul on Miller. Good job by Jake Hendricks to draw the player control foul.
We keep talking about Utah State throwing the ball, but how about Coach Edwards' ability, his team, to play some defense? Taylor just missed a pass on the other end. Then he comes down here and takes a player control foul. So they've now, forced 4 turnovers in the last 4 or 5 possessions?
And you're right, that was T.J. Taylor, not Hendricks. Taylor on the other end gets blocked by Keita.
Keita, top 5 in Utah State history in block shots. Only a sophomore.
It's number 95 in his career. And Maldonado busy again, bringing Wyoming within 1. As Maldonado and Marble, the only 2 players who have scored so far for the Cowboys.
They are playing lockdown defense. Wyoming, 4th best defense as far as points per games are concerned in the Mountain West.
Anderson missing underneath after the spin move. And now a chance for Wyoming to take the lead. Hunter Thompson missing the 3. Thompson, big 6'10" sophomore, one of the larger players on this Wyoming team, can stretch it out and hit some of those 3s. Brock Miller off the mark. And a foul on the rebound will go against Alfonso Anderson.
Love the way Utah State moves the basketball. Brito didn't have anything. He found Keita at the foul line. And then you have Brock Miller coming from behind Keita. Watch this. Brock Miller on the right side of your screen uses Keita more of like a shield to try to get open. Had a wide open look. That's a shot Keita can knock down. Didn't happen to go in there. But you have to appreciate the offensive movement with the ball and without the ball.
Miller has struggled from 3-point range, shooting just 23% in conference play. Good help side defense by Justin Bean. 10 on the shot clock now for Quan Marble on the baseline. Keita bouncing that rebound to himself.
Well, you see the impact he has. I mean, I say it every game. He deters people from shooting down inside, but then he does get block shots, and then he gets rebounds. So he just clogs up the paint. He's a rim protector. And obviously on the offensive end, he can be really good down here.
5-minute scoring drought for Utah State. They'll look to get a couple of buckets from Nimi Keita at the free throw line when we return. The Utah State Aggies offense gone stale. Wyoming within 1. 5-0 run for Wyoming has them within 1 point of Utah State. 7:37 to go here in the first half. And Richie, if Utah State wants to get their offense rolling, they need to incorporate Nimi Keita a little bit more. And frankly, he needs to stop turning the ball over too.
Right, and he's starting to figure it out a little bit more. You see his numbers are slightly down in the rebound category and the blocks per game from last year. Terrific year last season. Freshman of the year, defensive player of the year. But you know what? A lot of that's because he's been playing a lot less minutes as they're trying to work him back from an injury that set him back way in the summer playing the FIBA tournament overseas. But he's coming off a game against Colorado State. Played a season-high 32 minutes in that game. And I think you're starting to see Nimi Keita get back to some of the same form he was a year ago.
Well, it's interesting, too, though, is what you and I talked about is before the game, is how impressive he is passing the basketball. However, today, been a little bit careless. 4 turnovers. Anything you see differently in terms of, is he just rushing what he's doing in the post with the basketball?
I'm going to credit Wyoming's defense. I mean, they're sometimes trying to double down. Sometimes they're digging in. I think they're confusing him, and I think he's playing a little bit too rushed at times. And those 8 turnovers for Utah State have led to 5 points on the other end.
Makes it a 3-point game at the free throw line. It's the first points for Utah State in about 5 minutes as Maldonado misses the 3. Wyoming now 2 of 11 from 3 in this game. Utah State 1 of 5. Pick and roll to Keita. Skip pass Brock Miller. Still plenty of time. 10 on the shot clock. Great ball movement, but even better defense by Wyoming on this possession. Keita. ISO. We go back to Miller in the corner. 1 on the shot clock. No.
So it's another good look by Brock Miller. And 2 passes out of the post by Nimi Keita. I counted 4 ball reversals on that possession. And stats show if you get 3 or more ball reversals, you're going to score 2/3 of the time. Loosens up the defense. They have to move from place to place, and oftentimes you get better angles to score.
Regardless, Wyoming on the defensive end, again, Richie forcing Utah State to go deep in the shot clock, and a good pick and roll underneath as Quan Marble finds TJ Taylor.
So a lot of, right now, Wyoming coming back is more or less because of the turnovers. Like we said, 5 points off those turnovers. Yes, Utah State's not shooting the ball great, but those turnovers are the difference in the game, and that's what makes you so frustrated as a coach. You can live with missed shots, but turnovers are something that are preventable.
Quan Marble called for the foul. Getting a little handsy with Nimi Keita. Now both of them having words with each other. And a technical foul on both of them.
Oh, man, yes. Just got to keep your mouth shut. This arena is not well attended tonight. And as a result, you have to create some of your own energy. And there's frustration in here because neither team is shooting the ball great. Keita's not playing his best basketball. And there's words being exchanged. So I'm glad the official did that now rather than waiting for it to escalate maybe 2 minutes from now.
Vern Harris, John Higgins, Larry Spalding, your very veteran refereeing crew. Vern Harris, the one issuing the simultaneous technical fouls. Under 6 minutes to go here in the first half. Diogo Brito, Sean Bairstow back out there for Utah State. Alfonso Anderson digging in the post. Skip pass to Bairstow, not there. We talked about the defensive prowess of Wyoming, Richie, but Utah State has gotten better as the season's progressed as well on the defensive end. Their last 3 wins holding opponents to 35% shooting from the floor, and tonight Wyoming shooting just 28% so far.
And you mix that with great second half basketball. I mean, they shot over 60% from the field a game ago against Colorado State. And that's when they're really deadly, especially in the second half when they're playing defense, as you're talking about. Second half, they seem to peak on the offensive end from a field goal percentage standpoint. That's what gets them winning games.
Bairstow called for his second foul. Quan Marble go to the free throw line. As you take a look at Allen Edwards, 2 national championships as a player at Kentucky for Rick Pitino, 3 Final Fours. We'll talk about a guy who brings experience and passion. A really great chat we had with him earlier today. A guy who is looking to these underclassmen, 7 sophomores, 3 freshmen for Wyoming, to turn this program around in the next couple years.
Well, you know, I feel bad for Coach Edwards because he had 2 20-plus win seasons in his first 2 years. Last year was an anomaly. He had those 6 guys out, 4 with injuries, 1 quit, 1 got suspended. And so they struggled. They had 8 wins, and I'm telling you, some games they had like 7 scholarship players in the game.
They had to suit up a manager for one game.
They did. Football players. Now this year, you know, granted, he did have a great player in Justin James, who was drafted by the Sacramento Kings, as you said earlier today when we were speaking. He's getting some playing time, I think 8 minutes a game for them through 25, 26 games. But now they're all young, and this is a very young squad. So now it's rebuild time, and they've had some competitive games. They are better than their record. There's no question about it.
Playing really good defense so far, forcing Utah State to 8 turnovers already here in the first half. And they average 12 turnovers per game on the season. So you see that Wyoming defense, a reason why their opponents this season averaging just 67 points per game when they're playing the Cowboys. Under 5 minutes to go here in the first half. Eric Rothman, Richie Schuler here with you. Perimeter defense. Utah State coming out a little bit higher to pester the Cowboys. 5 on the shot clock now for Hendricks. In the corner, lets it go a 3.
So you got to give Justin Bean credit on the defense there, making him shot fake and not get his shot into rhythm.
Bairstow up top for Utah State. He gets the 3-pointer to go, just the second for the Aggies in this game.
8 of 18 from behind the arc. The low to mid 40 percentile for Sean Bairstow, the freshman who's been getting more and more playing time as of late.
We appreciate those of you who have followed us over to ESPN News. We're waiting for that Ole Miss Auburn game, which is going into double overtime now, to be done on ESPNU before we switch over there. So just keep an eye on that. We will be switching stations when that game concludes.
Good dump down inside. I like that high-low action.
Anderson trying to find some space. Good defense straight up and down by TJ Taylor. And the timeout taken by a frustrated Craig Smith, despite his Aggies on top, 18-12 on the road. 3:41 to go here in the half. ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is presented by Progressive Insurance. Get slam dunk savings today. Visit progressive.com. Still a little snow on the ground here in Laramie, but it was an absolutely beautiful day. We enjoyed our time in Wyoming. The Cowboys trailing Utah State 18-12. Rich, you wanted to isolate the last play for the Aggies before the break.
Well, I love this young man, Alfonso Anderson. He goes up strong. Now watch, he's asking for the call. See how he put his hands up right there? That'll frustrate a lot of coaches. Now, fortunately, Utah State got the ball back, but Anderson looked like he got hit. And he's a great young man. I love him. He's very respectful. But it's very natural for guys when they don't get a call to look at the referee and say, where's the foul? If he hadn't done that, I think he would have got the ball right back and got 2 points and maybe an and one.
Shooting struggles continue for both of these teams. Utah State 35% from the floor, Wyoming 25%. They have combined to shoot 4 for 22 from 3. As Diogo Brito to the free throw line for the Aggies. Brito second in the Mountain West in steals per game. Really good two-way player off the bench for Utah State. This week, our NBA Wednesday doubleheader tips off in Brooklyn with Kyrie and the Nets hosting Andre Drummond and the Pistons at 7:30 Eastern. Then we head to the Rose City for James Harden, Russell Westbrook, and the Rockets taking on red-hot Damian Lillard and the Portland Trail Blazers. Our coverage begins with Stephen A's pregame Sports Center at 7 Eastern on ESPN and the ESPN app. And how about the Bucks today, Richie? 88 points in the first half.
That's insane.
Is that good?
I'm not sure we're going to see 88 points combined in this game.
Fighting through traffic, TJ Taylor beating the triple team. Minutes to go here in the first half. Brito and Anderson's but a good combo for Utah State off the bench. A reverse lay-in for Alfonso Anderson. I'll tell you what, we talked about Merrill, Bean, and Keita, the big three for Craig Smith. But if they can get consistently productive minutes from Brito and Anderson, that is a deep, deep squad for the Aggies.
Absolutely, and Anderson just had his best game probably in the last month against Colorado State on Saturday at home. He's starting to come along, and I think when you're trying to mix in a new player like Keita, not a new player, but you mix him in where he didn't play a lot in the non-conference, that changes things.
Hendricks trying to beat the buzzer with the three. That was a long three. This is the 8th game in a row where the Aggies have started the same starting lineup. They hadn't been able to do that since the first 7 games of the season.
Right. I mean, they've got everybody back, and I think this team here, Utah State, barring something crazy, I think they're going to finish in the top 3 of the Mountain West. It's going to be very difficult when you got San Diego State undefeated on the season to beat them out for the Mountain West regular season championship, but certainly a conference tournament run for Utah State as possibly a top 2 seed is very possible.
Alfonso Anderson back-to-back buckets. It's the largest lead of the game for Utah State. Wyoming still struggling to find their offensive rhythm, a team that averages just 60 points per game on the year, but 27% from the floor in this first half, just 2 of 14 from 3. Make it 2 of 15 as Hendricks misses another one. He's 0 for 5. All of his field goals have come from long range. Bean slips inside, and Bean lips out the lay-in, and it will be Wyoming basketball.
Feel like Wyoming is doing a good job of keeping Justin Bean under wraps. I mean, that's a player that can score you and hurt you in a lot of different ways. And they're doing a good job. He's got just 1 bucket on the night. They've really kept him in check, 3 boards. And I just feel like if they can keep Justin Bean under wraps, another factor that could lead to Wyoming having a really good chance at pulling off this W. Right now, they got to get some buckets.
Under a minute to go in the half, under 10 on the shot clock for A.J. Banks, the senior from Las Vegas, one of only 2 seniors on this Cowboys team. Kicks it out to Maldonado, 2 on the shot clock, and Brito bails him out.
Wyoming is taking a lot of 3-point shots. Cada's out of the basketball game right now. You'd like to see them get inside the paint a little bit more. And that's certainly a foul by Brito, who's trying to get a hand up on the shot fake. But when Cada's out of the game, a lot of times offensive teams smell blood. It's like, we got to get to the paint now. The rim protector is out of the game. He's the best rim protector in all the Mountain West, maybe in the entire western half of the United States. Get the ball in the paint, see if you can attack and get some easier shots than the outside threes. I'd like to see Wyoming do that at least here, 1 possession here in the last minute here of the first half.
Well, credit Utah State too with Cada on the bench, forcing Wyoming to go really late in these shot clocks. Every single possession, force up shots that they don't want to take.
Yeah.
Learning process for Coach Alan Edwards and this young team. And they lost the stud coming out of last year, Justin James, as we mentioned, first team all-conference. 10 underclassmen, just 2 seniors and 1 junior. Brito inside, and Brito draws the foul. I believe Hayes Fortstrom was in the restricted area.
Right, look at Brito, he gets to go middle. That's the big no-no. Defense let him get in there, and that's exactly what it is, Eric. Defense had 1 foot, maybe 2 feet. Yep, 2 feet inside that restricted arc. That's automatically going to be a blocking foul.
So Brito to the free throw line, where he's an 84% free throw shooter on the year. This is one of the best free throw shooting teams in all the country, 3rd in the nation in free throws made this season as a squad.
Brito played for the Portuguese national team. He's done so since 2012. Under 18, the under 20 FIBA European Championships.
He adds to the Aggies total, 25-16 the score, and a timeout taken by Wyoming with just over 30 seconds to go here in the first half. And we will step aside just for a moment before we wrap up the first half here in Wyoming. Largest lead of the game for the Aggies. Utah State, Wyoming, here in Laramie. Eric Rothman, Richie Schuler with you, 30.5 seconds to go. Richie, we talk about the lack of offense for Wyoming here in the first half. What adjustments can Coach Alan Edwards make during the break?
I'd like to see them get into the paint here this last possession, either with a drive or back to the basket post. They are very perimeter oriented out there, though, and that's kind of how it has been all season. That's perfect right there.
Juan Marble, the drive. Five seconds to go here in the first half. Merrill fires a 3. Banks comes down with a rebound to end half number 1. A stagnant offensive half for both teams. However, Utah State starting to get their groove from a couple post players. Alfonso Anderson, Diogo Brito off the bench and providing some offense for the Aggies. We welcome in our audience from ESPNU, who just watched a great game between Auburn and Ole Miss. And we are at the half here in Laramie with Utah State on top 25-16. Utah State coming into this game in 2 straight wins, looking to improve to 6-4 in the conference before they head to their showdown against San Diego State. The offense was a slow start, however, We see how deep this Aggies bench can be now that they're healthy, getting a lot of production from Diogo Brito and Alfonso Anderson. Off the bench, they combined for 9 points in this first half. And we step aside. The Aggies on top 25-16, their largest lead of the game, looking for a road win here in conference play against Wyoming. The Cowboys need to find some offense if they want to come back on the Aggies. Halftime here in Laramie.